I had a shmur Maaseh Megillah. 17 minutes.
Okay, while we're gathering our foodstuffs, I'm going to do the learning sponsors. The year of learning, Martin Lippman and family in memory of his wife, Malka Chana Bat Pinchas, friends of Herb Jeremiah, Tzvi Ben Zev, friends of Sam Coleman, Shmuel Ben Yaakov, friends of Gideon Lazinski, Mordechai Shlomo Ben Meir, Bella and David Adler in memory of her father, Eliyahu Ben Yosef Kohen. Those who were inspired by our Rebbetzin Emerita, Sheila Shapiro, Sarah Esther Malka Bat Meshulam Yisachar, Gail and Leslie Kaplan, in memory of their parents, Mushka Sprinza Bat Yosef Chaim V'Chava, Chanan Ben Moshe Eliezer V'Chana, Pesha Bat Shmuel Yitzchak Halevi V'Tzipora, Isser Ben Yoel Moshe Cohen V'Chana, Rexford Friends of Gladys Sherman, Gutta Bat Meir, Michael Klein and Friends of Judah Klein, Yehuda Tzvi Ben Chaim, Marsha Bronner in memory of her husband, Arav Yerachmiel Ben Shmuel, friends and family of Arthur Ritholtz, Mordechai Yudel Ben Baruch, Leib HaKohen, friends and family of Siggy Bessler, Shalom Shraga Ben Dov. A month of learning by Ruvain and Susan Podolsky in memory of his mother, Freila Bat Shraga Feivel. B. Pizer in memory of her sister, Rivka Bat Avram Michal Halevi. Michael and Judith Poretsky in memory of his brother, Avram Ben Gershon. A week of learning by Barbara Stern in memory of her father, David Mordcha Ben Zev Vayeta. Today, we don't start till the 7th. May the Shemas have an aliyah, crank Rafia Vati Yeshua Shemas Lechol Ben Israel, a good gebenched Yah.
Rabbi Kranz's not here yet?
Rabbi Kranz doesn't participate in this stuff.
I know, no.
But now you understand what existed.
Amazing.
Okay, I know. That's amazing. Right?
Okay, Rabbosai.
Michael, you may have to start giving up that chair.
Rabosa, we are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You know what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 skinny lines from the last skinny line on Mem Beis Amud Beis. Okay, Tana Rabbanan. Tana Rabbanan. Somebody here? Now we have a tremendous chiddush. Tana Rabbanan. We learned in a braysa, Behemis Isha Isha. The pasuk says by a shor muad, if it kills a man or a woman. I'm Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Kiva says a tremendous chiddush. What if to tell me man or woman? If you want to tell me what, that you have to tell me that it doesn't matter whether the ox gored a man or a woman. The pasuk already said, we already had a pasuk that said it makes no difference if it's a man or a woman. Why here does it have to say it? To compare a woman to a man, just like a man, his damages go to his inheritors, his children. Af isha, a woman, if she dies, the damages to her go to her children. Now, this is shocking. Now, the Gemara has been learning to her. To her children. Wait, hold on. To her children. Now, 1 second. What's the point? The point is like this. We're shocked. Why is that? Because we think, we are to her inheritors. But why are we shocked? Because usually the rule is who inherits a wife? Her husband. All of a sudden, why? Oh, now tell me what all of a sudden now. So the damages are going to go to her inheritors. Why should it go to her husband? So the Gemara is learning that Rabbi Kiva saw from here a tremendous chiddush. Even though we thought the rule is that a husband, no, it goes to the wife. All right, Rabbi Kiva does Rabbi Kiva hold that a husband doesn't inherit his wife? It can't be true. We know Rabbi Kiva holds that the husband is the one who inherits his wife. But Tanya, didn't we learn in a braysa the following? It says what? The pasuk is it's a very hard pasuk because it has to be sliced up and explained. Because it says you're going to give his inheritance to the one who's his flesh, who's close to him from his family, but Yarasho saw, and he will inherit her. Okay, so we have to explain. We have to cut it into pieces. It ends up explaining like this: that you have to give his inheritance to whoever's closest from his family. But okay, but if his share, if his close relative, namely his wife, passes away, okay, he Mikan Shabal Yorshisha. We have to say what he inherits her. That's the rule. Rabbi Kiva himself is the one who held that husbands inherit their wives, okay, before her children. Amresh Lakish, before his sons. Amresh Lakish says, Lo Amar, okay, he says, you're making a mistake. Rabbi Kiva is not saying that in general, husbands don't inherit their wives. In general, a husband inherits the wife. Okay, the only thing is what? Lo Amar El Lekofer. It's only for this one thing. When it comes to Kofer, when the ox killed a woman, the Kofer that's going to go, the Kofer, okay, it's by Kofer that the husband doesn't get that the husband's not going to get paid the Kofer, but her kids. Why? Okay, hold the Amish Talim El Achamisa. Why is that? Because he's saying it's a principle, it's a direct rule, like all the other rules of inheritance. That what? Since Kofer only becomes obligated after the woman dies, the heavy low roy, and that's only stuff that was never in her possession in her lifetime, but only comes in. I'll explain in a minute. Only comes to her after her lifetime. Then a husband, just like the eldest son, only gets a double portion from stuff that was in the estate before the father died, and not what accrues to the estate after the father, not what accrues to the estate after the father dies. So too, the husband is just like the eldest son. He only has a right to inherit his wife what was in the estate when she died, but what accrues to the estate after she dies, not. Now the thing is what? Okay, my time. What? Okay, and about nota now my time. What's the reason that Kofer is not considered to be what Mosak in the estate before she dies? Amar Kra, because it says, take a look, when you look at the pasuk, when it talks about Kofer, it says, the Hamis Isha, if the ox kills a man or a woman, Ashar Yisaka, the ox has to be stoned. The Gambal of Yumas, but what also the owner has to, what time he's have to pay, he has to pay him Kofer, Yushas Alav. If Kofer is assessed to him, we see what? So when is the Kofer assessed? Okay, it's only after the ox gets killed. Okay, okay, and the ox only gets killed when she dies. You could have thought what? That when she's about to die, when she's on the way to die, already she has the rights to the kofer. It's not true. Just like what? The kofer only comes after the ox dies. The same way, so and the ox can only die after the woman, after the damagee actually dies. So also the kofer doesn't accrue to the estate until the woman actually dies. So therefore, since the husband only has a rights to inherit what was in the estate before, and the kofer only accrues to her what after she's dead, so to speak. Therefore, the husband doesn't get it, but her kids get it. All right, so now, okay, good. So we explained Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Kiva explained me a beautiful chiddush that even though the husband normally inherits his wife, when it comes to kofer, he does not inherit the wife. Says the Gemara in second. Is it really true what you're saying? Look, but so the Rekiva was only saying that the husband doesn't inherit his wife when it comes to kofer, but her normal damages, that she was damaged, straight out damaged, and that she didn't get, he would collect. Let me ask you a question. When Zakin, Lomar Rekiva, when Rekiva didn't say that the husband doesn't get it, well, Tanya, didn't we learn the following? Okay. Everybody knows what they hit the woman and they caused her to miscarry. No saying nezek with Sarah Isha. We learned what in the Brisa. He has to pay the devaluation, and the pain goes to the woman. Damages to her body go to her. Okay, but we know that Torah awarded the price for the babies that were killed. That goes to the husband. Okay, no saying. Okay, now Einabal, let's say the husband is not alive. No saying Yosher, so then you have to pay the price for the babies to the husband's inheritors. Eina Isha, if the woman is not alive, no send of Yosha, you give it to what? You give also the valuation and the pain you give to what? To her inheritors and not to the husband. So you see, it's not true what you said that we only what, and we assume this is already Kiva. Okay, now what? Okay, so okay, so we had this. We're going to finish, but still, we see already what that when when the woman dies, it goes to her inheritance and not the husband, even by what normal damages, not just by kofer. But continuing, okay, let's say she was a freed slave woman married to a freed slave, or Gioris, or she's a convert married to a convert. Okay, they're there, but converts don't have any heirs, okay, because they're just like, as far as Yuchsin, as far as their pedigree, as far as their lineage, just like they were just born. And the truth is, when a convert dies, really the stuff is hefker. Now the thing is like this: if somebody owes a convert something, and the convert dies, he doesn't have to go and claim it from hefker. It's in his pocket, so he automatically grabbed it before anybody else. Okay, so you don't have to pay. But I have a problem in any case. But that's not the point. That's not the point. The point is, 1 second. You just told me Rabbi Kiva only thought that the Torah awards kofar to her inheritors, but not to the husband, but normal damages. Yes, we see clearly what even normal damages, even the price of the pain, and even the price of the devaluation goes to her inheritors and not to him. Amar Rabbi says, don't worry, but Grusha. That was only talking about why once he divorced her. And why was once he divorced her? Okay, right, okay, and therefore what? And therefore, and therefore, and therefore it goes to her. No, it's where he divorced her. Okay, so you're right. He's not married to her when she died. 1 second. You can't remember. I told you we expect Mishnayos and Brises to be consistent. We don't expect a right or a left turn without a sign. So now, if you tell me that the Bryce is talking where the husband and wife are divorced, I assume that consistently all the cases are where the husband divorced the wife. Amri, okay, it's a big Grusha. He says, okay. He says, then how come if it's talking about a divorced woman that she was divorced, then also why did you tell me that the husband gets the price of the miscarried babies? Nami tiflo b'tmei vladas. He divorced her. She should get back her half of the babies. Why? Because we assume really husbands and wives are both partners in the baby. Okay, and really but just so happened that when they're married, the Torah awarded her half to him. Okay, with the divorce, she should get her half. That's one way to read it. There's other ways to read the Gemara B'chlal. There's other Gersos, but that's the way you read it. So if the divorce, she should get back at least her half. Rav Papa Torah zochted mevalis labala fila bala business. No, it doesn't matter. The Torah gave. It's not the fact that the Torah awarded the miscarriage to the husband is not based on being married, even if he's living with her in sin, so to speak, in znus, in the licentiously, even not married. My time, it doesn't matter. It's whoever sired the baby. My time, what's reason because it says kasha yoshu bal isha. When it came to the price of the miscarriage, it says we'll assess the husband of the woman. It should say Bala, her husband. Why Baal Isha? So it's going on the verb of siring, of actually having conceived the baby. Any man, married, not married, he conceived the baby, he gets the money back. So therefore, okay, so we solved everything. So the answer is now what? We learned according to Rabbi Akiva that it's particularly what? It's kofar. Kofar particularly is not inherited by the husband, but by the woman's inheritors. Why? Why is that? Because husbands, just like elder sons, just like the elder son's double portion, a husband only has a right to what's in the estate when the wife dies. What it's going to accrue to the estate, he doesn't have a right to. That's called roy. The one word is musak. It's already, so to speak, it's in the status quo of the estate. Roy, fitting to come. It's potential, and comes afterwards. Now. Okay, so now we solved. Okay, now we have just a new problem, and I want to talk it out from outside to make it easy inside. Both Rava, did I read it? I hope I read up above. Rava said Grusha v'chein Rav Nachman v'Grusha, but I hope I read both. I did say. So now, two guys said. Now we have to know that Rav Nachman are famous for another opinion, and what is that? Okay, famous for another opinion. Why do you have to answer this really hard-pressed answer of Grusha? They could have had an easier answer in the same Bryce. So what do you mean to say? Because they had an argument when it comes to the whole idea of something that is potentially accruing to an estate. We have a famous problem. Machlokas, but the rabbis are rabbi. But the main point is what? That the rabbis hold that things that accrue to the state on their own do not give a double portion to the elder son. Okay, to the elder son. So let's say a debt, for example, a debt is only going to be collected afterwards. Okay, now the only thing we could argue is that part of the estate or not. So we had a whole argument of what the rabbis held, and Lemaisa, in order to solve that problem without getting too much detail, in another place, Rabba and Rav Nachman both held a special case that the rabbis would sometimes say that the collection of the debt would be considered part of the estate, and sometimes the collection of debt would be considered accrued to the estate and not part of the estate originally. And they took off opposite sides. What did they say? They say, "Benokma l'Rabba kagon shegavamus." Why don't we set up our brisa instead of saying what is where she divorced him? No, let's just say that the damages of the damages of the woman which went to her inheritors rather than him. It depends. Maybe it was a special case where specific and certain. It depends whether it was it was no, you want to say the damages should have gone to the husband. Maybe it's because they were considered accrued to the estate rather than in the estate. What do we mean to say? In other words, here, what's the case? Benokma l'Rabba kagon shegavamos. We'll say, Rabba, you know why? You know why they can't give it to the husband? Because they collected money, and money for the damages is a collection. The basin took money from the damager, and that's considered potential, okay, and not actual. Rav Nachman on the other side could go and karka. Or Rav Nachman will hold no, when they collected land for the basin collected land for the damages, and that's considered what? That's considered potential, not actual. The Amar Rabbah, because we learned when it came to the double portion of the firstborn, they said gabu karka. He said if the basin collected for a debt, they collected land, okay, yeshlo. So then then the firstborn is going to get a double portion. Why? Because Rabbah held that land was already, because here the land was ready as a lien, so it was already it's ready in the state before the father died. Gavu most, but if they collected money, okay, alo. So then the first one doesn't get a double portion. Why? Because that wasn't part of the estate. That money is fungible. If I lend you $10, I don't get back the $10 I gave you. You get back some other $10. It's not the same. I don't sit there. Rav Nachman always said. Rav Nachman said the other way. No, Gabu most. If the Beis Din collected money, so money is considered. Look, no matter which money I give you back, I'm giving you back the money that you gave me. You gave me 10. If I give you a different 10, it's still the 10 that you gave me. And if it was, so if they collected money, then the firstborn gets double because that's considered to be what? Muhsak, part of the estate, actual double karka. But if they collected land, ain't low. No, then what? Then he does not get it. Why? Because land is different. Land, right? Land is really what is really in place of the money, and that really is accrued. So he could have said that. So therefore, each of them could have answered. One, it just depended on how they collected the woman's damages, whether the husband had the right to it or not. Each of them could say the reason why the husband didn't get it. Really, the husband has a right to it, but only when it was part of the estate. Depends what they collected afterwards. Each one, according to their opinion, whether they collected land or money, each one will say it was the one that was considered potential and not actual and not mukhtar. Amri Hanimili said, nah. He says, you're making a mistake. He says that whole opinion was Lebnei Marava. That was the way that they understood from Eretz Israel, okay, the rabbi's opinion. They were busy explaining the rabbis who held that in general, that any loan was theoretically going to be what any natural accruement is considered to be, even a thing that's naturally going to accrue to the estate is still considered potential and not actual. Okay, but when he said here, okay, that it's talking about a grusha, why couldn't they say it was only potential? The answer is Rebbe, because Rebbe holds what that anything that's naturally going to accrue, a debt that's going to naturally accrue to the estate, is considered right. It's considered actual, not considered potential. What's considered potential according to Rebbe? If for example, a father left an orchard and then the orphans went out and improved the orchard, they put the money in. That's considered potential, but anything else, anything that naturally is going to come from the estate, that's considered. So therefore, they had to take the most gross answer, which was what? That she was divorced because no matter how we collected the debt, it was considered what? It was considered actual and not potential. Oh my goodness. Okay, good. That's it. That's the answer. Except everything is actual except for what the orphans invest into do by their own investment afterwards, by their own work. Right, exactly. Right, exactly. No, every just naturally incurring improvement is all actual. Okay, I'm Rosh Hashanah. Now we're gonna come now to we're gonna deal with this for quite a while. Let's understand it, and you'll see why this is such a fight. And I've been explaining to a lot of people, the Rambam was, for example, the Rambam, as you know, was an incredible contribution to our understanding of the Torah and Halacha. And we really don't have almost anything in the world like the Rambam. Yes, we're actually the entire Torah. He actually consistently explained it to us. Yes, it was something unbelievable. Not that there weren't other people in his time who did that, but we don't have it on paper in black and white. We see the Rambam from beginning to end. unbelievable. Now there are a lot of things that the Rambam said, and that they were debated, etc. They fought him. They didn't like him. He quoted the Greeks and all these, quoting all the Chacham. They don't like him. But one thing you have to understand, that the Rambam was powerfully based on something that we know from the Torah, and that is what we have a thing called Im Savara Lama Li Kra. Anything that's true Torah. When I'm going to say the word common sense, but I mean Torah common sense. But Im Savara Lama Li Kra. If it's Torah common sense, I don't need a pasuk to say it. Torah common sense is the equivalent of a pasuk. That's the equivalent of a pasuk. That's fine. That's what if Torah common sense says it. That's what Hashem said, unless the Torah says otherwise. Obviously, okay, that's the rule. And a great deal, and I'm just this is a gift I'm just giving you. You'll see that a great many places where the world goes nuts, great people, can't they can't take the Rambam. It's because the Rambam. They're often trying to figure out where to get it from. The answer is what? For the Rambam, it was self-evident. Certain things are self-evident. That's the way it is. The Rambam stood his ground. He was powerful. I never saw, and I tell you, this is just a word from our sponsor for a minute. You're not going to find, because in the modern times they got crazy. They committed character assassination on the Rambam. You're not going to find a person. You're not going to find on paper. You're not going to find more love of God, of a person who was closer to God than the Rambam. His entire being was focused on HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because they paint them as the egghead, the cold, rash. You never saw a person more in love with God than the Rambam, for crying out loud. It was unbelievable. Unbelievable, right? Unbelievable, yeah. Yeah, but I'm saying, but just trying to point out, yeah, and I don't think there was a lonelier man in history. I don't think there was a lonely. I don't know who he talked to. I don't know who he talked to. But the thing is, anyway, but many things. Yeah, maybe, yeah. He got this kid. Thank God for the kids.
Because the kid picked up where he left.
My own Rebbe of blessed memory, and I said this to him. I learned by one man for 14 years. So at one point, I said to him, I finally got it, and I remember where I remember exactly where I stood. We were outside. It doesn't exist. You can't find that place anymore because they built over it. I'm standing there, and I looked, and it was late at night, and all of a sudden it dawned on me. I said, "Wait a second." I said, "You just made the whole yeshiva because you didn't have anybody to talk to?" And he nodded his head. Yeah, he had to actually educate people to hear what he was saying. He had to go out and teach people. Nobody knew what he was talking about. He had to go talmedim them so he had to train them up so there's nobody he's talking about. That's what happened. Anyway, so a great deal of the things that are not understood in the Rambam were self-evident. Now, so over here we have a thing. What happens sometimes? Let's say we have a very strange thing. It may not have occurred to you, but I'm going to just now I'm belaboring the point. Don't worry, because we're going to do this to the end of the class. What happens? Almost. What happens? We have all kinds of cases of kofar here. The animal was muad and it killed a man. You have to pay kofar. He has to pay whatever that is, whether it's the price of the damage or the damage. He has to pay Tomam. No. And what happens if for technical reasons there's no kofar? What's the rule? Did the Torah tell us explicitly? When the animal killed a man, and for technical reasons there's no kofar, what's the law? No kofar. Well, then what? And he goes free? So you mean when an animal damages a man, you pay. The animal kills a man, if there's no kofar, you go free. Is that what's happening? Is that what it is? No, wait, no. The animal, yeah. You go free. You go free. You don't pay anything. You go free. Okay, it's true that the Torah taught us, for example, by bore, by pit. If a man falls in, you pay damages. If he dies, you don't. But that's because the pit's not responsible. We say for the death. We don't charge for the death of the man. Okay, but what happens over here? So now we're going to have a tremendous chiddush. Okay, and we're going to see rules. Okay. We're going to see a rule coming up. I'm a few lines ahead, but no, we're going to see a rule coming up where, in the absence of another payment, we're still going to have to pay damages, and that's going to here. We're going to machadish. We're going to derive a law that nobody saw. So, and that's what we're going to debate. Okay, let's see it inside. I'm Rabbi Shimon Lakish. Shar Shemesh says evet shelo b'kavanah, and this is the derivation. If an ox killed a man unintentionally, in other words, the ox wanted to kill one, wanted to go to an ox and killed a man. So you remember we learned what's the halacha in such a case where the ox, if the ox wants to kill an ox and the ox kills a man, okay, the ox kills a man. So what happens is the ox killed or not. So we look just like the ox has the same rule as a man. If a man tried to kill this one and killed that one, what's the halacha? We don't kill him. So if the ox tries to kill this one and kills that one, we don't kill the ox. So he says, if an ox killed a slave, not intending to kill the slave, he wanted to kill an ox, kill the slave, not only don't we kill the animal, but what? You don't have to pay the 30 shekels for killing the slave. Shenemar, why? Because it says, he has to pay the 30 silver to the owner, and the ox has to be what? Stoned. So you see that the Torah put these things in that position. So long as what the ox is going to be stoned, that's when you pay the 30 shekels. But if the ox is not stoned, so he told me what? That one thing is dependent. The law of the paying of 30 is dependent on the killing of the ox, is linked, right? Amar Rabba contingent. And Rabba learns a very similar drasha. That what? Like this. He says, what happens by a man? Shar shemish ben chorin shelo b'kavana. If an ox killed a free man, okay, but not intentionally, wanted to kill an ox and kill the man, the owner doesn't have to pay the kofar. Never as it says, Ashar Yisaka, but Gambal Yumas, the same drasha. The ox has to be stoned, and also the man has to be killed, which really means what? In kofar Yushas if kofar is assessed against him. Okay, again, when is it that you have to pay the kofar, the atonement money? So long as the ox is stoned. So long as the ox is stoned, they have to pay the kofar money. And a but the ox is not stoned, and a Baal Mishal Kofar, what then the owners don't have to pay the kofar. So now they both made the same drasha, where we saw stoning of the ox put in opposition with the payment. So the payment was contingent on the stoning of the ox. So kofar is not paid if the ox is not killed, and what the shloshim shel eved of the eved is not paid if the ox is not killed. Get ready. This is a killer. Okay, Abaya says to Rabbah, he says, 1 second. He says, I'm going to show you an incredible thing that challenges you. He says, hey, Mishari, it's funny, we learned it at Bryce. But guy says, he admits, he says, my ox killed a man. Okay, which was a muad, obviously, where you'd have to pay kofar. An ox was a forewarned. My forewarned ox killed a man. Oh, Shorish Aplani, or my forewarned ox killed somebody's ox. Harizem Mishalim al pi atzmo. He pays by his own admission. Now, 1 second. Now we have a rule, just like a man is never executed by his own admission. A man's ox, remember, because the Torah compared the killing of the ox to the killing of a man. So just like we said above, if the ox isn't killed, what? If the ox killed, the man is killed. So now over here, can you kill him? We said this, like we said before, you don't kill an ox when it didn't intend, because you don't kill a man when it didn't intend. Can you kill a man by his own admission? No. Okay, so therefore what? So you can't kill his ox either by his own admission. So you're seeing what? You see what? But he's going to pay by his own admission. My love. So isn't it talking about what? My love. Kofar isn't it saying what? Even though he admitted, and you're not going to kill the ox, he starts to pay. What's he going to pay? Kofar. It's against what you said. It's not true. This is low. This is the chiddush I mentioned. Said no, that's not what we have a different thing. You're right. He's not going to be kofar. What's the guy killed? Peanut butter. If you would have broke his arm, you would have paid. Now you killed him. You brought him down to zero. You're not going to pay. You're not going to pay. You damaged your guy. He had a value. He's down to zero. Pay for the guy. So he's going to pay one. He's going to pay instead of paying kofar. And even if you hold kofar, be careful. Even if you hold kofar is the price of the damagee, there's a difference between calling it kofar and calling it what? Calling it damages. Number one, for example. Number one, for those people who believe that kofar is a knas, okay, you can't pay kofar by your own admission, but what you can pay, but the zikin you can pay by your own admission, okay. But another thing is what, okay, but another thing, like this. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna let that go for the moment. Okay, but the main point is that there's more to say. But anyway, he says, listen, he has to pay for damages. So we have a tremendous chiddush over here. We didn't see this explicitly, and this is when I mentioned. I gave you the whole speech before. We didn't see it. But listen, it makes sense. You have to pay. That's what the Bryce is telling you. What do you think? You're gonna kill a guy and you're not gonna pay him? Okay, you're not gonna pay over. But obviously, what? You have to pay for the damages. Okay. Now Gemara says what? E damim. He says, okay, 1 second. If it's really true, you want to get from this brisa this tremendous chiddush. He says, Ema Seifa. Again, how do you read the brisa consistently? If you're saying when it talks about payment, it's paying for damages and not paying for what, and not paying for kofar, then when it said, hey, me shorius avdo shaploni, the same brisa says what? If a guy admits, my ox killed Ploni's evet, might kill Ploni's evet, he does not pay by his own admission. Now, 1 second. If you were talking about the knas of 30, I understand why I can't pay by his own admission. It's a fine. He says, we eat dummy, but if it's saying what? If it's a case where what? Right, where that he doesn't pay for the value of the guy. Am I low? Why shouldn't he pay? Okay, why shouldn't he pay? He should pay for the money. Okay, if he's not going to pay, if he's not going to pay for the fine of 30, he should pay for what? He pay for the actual loss, right? Oh, also, that's the other difference what today here. If a person owes money and doesn't have it, they don't have to pay it. But if a person has to in the Shemayim has to pay kofar, even if he doesn't have the money, he's not forgiven. It's a big deal. If a guy owes money, he doesn't need money. Doesn't need money. He's okay. What are you gonna do? He doesn't need money. Any money. But if a guy's in the Shemayim, if in the Shemayim they're expecting kofar, he better go out and get some money. He can't get out. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. He has to go out. He has to go out. Go get a job. Get a job. Go get a job. Get that money. You gotta get forgiven over there. Okay. Now,
like in Spain and Mexico, with their ball fight, and the ball they'll do the ball fight.
Yeah.
What happens?
Yeah. So we're going to talk about it. Depends if all of it. Yeah. That's what we learned before. That's called the stadium ox. He's not in the whole parsha. Yeah. It's not an ox that we incite. An ox that we teach to kill is not the ox of the Torah.
Right.
Right. That we learned earlier. Okay. Good. But that's a good point. Ema Seifa. Okay. So therefore, what? So I got a problem. He says, if according to you, so I got a problem. According to you, that doesn't make any sense because if you're talking about the money, why is it when it came to a free man, you pay the damages? When it comes to a slave, you don't pay the damages. According to you, you should pay the damages. If you're not paying the fine or you're not paying the kofar, you should pay the what? Damages. So why isn't it not? Why is it not? This is a beautiful next part. This is beautiful. Look what he says to them. He says, he says, it's not illegal for me to answer you the way I'm gonna, but I'm not gonna. I could answer you Reisha Domim v'Seifa Knas. No, the Reisha was talking about what? Was talking about that what he pays the damages by his own admission, and the Seifa changed the venue and it's talking about what? The fine. Okay, the fine, and the fine he doesn't pay by himself, but he does pay what? But he does pay the damages. I know because I have as long as when can I not say there's two different venues or two different circumstances when I say if this was this opinion and that was that opinion. But if I say it's the same opinion, even though it's hard pressed, but it's switched a little bit. It's one opinion. It's one consistent opinion in two different circumstances. It's not such a good answer. It's still called a hard pressed answer, but it's legal. We do it. He says I could do it. He says I'm not going to give you a hard pressed answer. I'm going to give you a non-hard pressed answer. Okay. ID says both of the cases, okay, are talking about dummy. They're both talking about payment of money. Really? So by his own admission, he'll pay the damages by a free man. By his own admission, he won't pay the damages by a slave, even though the damages are monetary payment and not a fine. So he should. Why doesn't he? Now this is incredible chiddush. Okay, I'm going to explain it from the outside, and then explain it inside. It's like this. This is only one reasoning. It's not mine. There's only one reasoning. There's only one possibility, and it's like this. Why is it that when a person admits to a fine, okay, that they admits to a fine that they don't have to pay it? We said that's what we learned. We learned it from the pasuk. What's the reasoning? So we see a very strange thing. It's a very strange law according to this opinion. What if a guy admits to a fine and which he's free from the fine, and then witnesses could testify that he was obligated? So is it still considered admission? Let's say according to the opinion it says no, it's still considered that he did it and he's still free. Even though we don't need him anymore because the witnesses told us afterwards. But once he did it himself, so we have an opinion that says like this. When a guy admits to a fine, it's like he paid it. When a guy admitted to a fine, he already paid it. He paid it already. He paid it. It's too late. Either witnesses come, they can't reverse it. Why? He paid it. The admission. Oh, whatever you want to say. He was embarrassed. He this. A guy admits to the fine. He already paid his dues. He admitted to the fine. He paid his dues already. Only way that doesn't admit. As opposed to, but another kind of payment, the fact that the guy But if admission, question is admission the same? So we're gonna have to see now a difference between two types of admission. Let's take a look. You say, no, I'm going to show you that the damages in a case where had he admitted to the co-fare, okay, he would have been exempt from the co-fare. Are different of co-fare are different from the case of what different the case of co-fare and different the case of a fine. Let's see it inside. He says, I'll explain you the difference. How come the damages of a free man he does pay and the damages of a slave he doesn't pay? Why? He says, Ben Chorim, when it came to a free man, the Mishan Koper al Piatzmo, what there is at least a case. There wasn't our case, but even though since there is a case where he's going to pay the damages by his own admission, he pays the penitence, the penance by his own admission. What's the case? Witnesses came and said, this ox killed. There's no question that this ox killed. They just don't know if it's a tam or a muad. Now, once they said this ox killed, the ox has to be killed. That's no question about that. This ox killed. They just don't know if it's a tam or a muad. But Amar married the muadu, and now the owner admitted that it was a muad. It was a 4-1. The Misharim Kopra Piatzmo. Okay, in such a case, what? In such a case, he's going to pay on its own. Okay. Yeah, he's going to pay kofar on its own word. Why? Because the ox is what? The ox is being killed, and he's going to pay the kofar. So what he admitted to it? He gave us the fact. Thank you very much. He has to pay. The ox is getting killed. He has to pay the kofar. Heicha deleka edim. Nevertheless, but in a case where there's no witnesses, okay. In other words, what? Okay, because where the ox knows. Where there's no witnesses, he just admitted to everything. So the ox is not going to be killed. Mishalim damin. He's gonna have to pay the damages. He's gonna have to pay the damages. Legabe eved she'ena mishalim knas al piatzmo. When it comes to a slave, okay, we're in a similar case where he's not going to pay the damages on his own. What's the case? Witnesses said this ox killed. Okay, this ox killed. Killed the slave. Below Yodi Tam we don't know if it's a Tam or if it's a Muad. It was the owner came and admitted that it was a Muad, it was 4-1. Lo Mishtalim Knas, he's still not going to pay the 30 al Piatzmo by himself because you don't pay for a Knas. In that case, where he does, since over there by his own admission, in the parallel case to a free man, he doesn't pay by his own admission. Also, when there's no witnesses, he doesn't. And the answer is what? Because we're saying over there, the difference is you can see that when it comes to the fine case, his own admission is what? Is as if he already paid it. He paid it, then it's over. Once he admitted he paid. He's never obligated. So we can make a difference between what? It's when a guy admits to kofar, it's not like he paid it. Okay, it's not like he paid it. When a guy admits to the fine, it's like he paid it. So therefore, what? So the law will be less severe. Okay, by the fine, by the fine. When he's not paying the fine, he also doesn't pay the damages. Why? Because he's already paid it. Okay, which isn't the case by the case of the kofar. Okay, good. So that now we see got out of it. Okay, so 1 second. He says now, yeah, 1 second. He says, how can you say that? Masi Rashmo Bar Yitzchak, he says, listen, we learned in the Brisa, we have a following. Say, okay, you said a point, but I want to show you that it can't be true what you said. You're telling me now to defend yourself that when you don't pay the fine, you also don't pay the damages, and when you don't pay the kofar, you do pay the damages. He said, I'm going to show you a Brisa that said that that damages and the kofar have the same rule. What is that to say? Let's take a look. I have a strange Brisa, and the only way to explain it is against you. Because we learned, Masi Rashmo Bar Yitzchak, yes, Yakasha. Kol Shechai Ben Chorin, any time that the free man, you be chayiv for killing a free man, chayiv be'eved, okay, you're obligated by a slave, bain be'kofar, whether it's the payment of kofar, bain b'misa, or whether it comes to killing the ox. They're completely parallel. Now, he said, 1 second, how can you tell me you pay kofar in both cases? Kofar, be'eved, mika. The Brisa came me when it said literally, you don't pay kofar, there's no kofar by a slave. How can you tell whenever I pay kofar by a free man, I pay kofar be'eved? So here, clearly, the word kofar is lav dafka. It can't mean kofar. Elolav, isn't it really saying what? Damim, isn't it really talking about exactly your case? And saying that what? That just like by a free man, you'll pay damages, damim, monetary damages when you don't pay the kofar, you'll also pay by a slave monetary damages, damim, when you don't pay the fine. That's all the Brisa can mean. Isn't that what it means? Ikadami, so some people say who most of them were fired. Well, some people say what? He asked the difficulty to answer himself. Ikadami, some people say no. Amalei Rabba, some people say like that it was Rabba who answered. He says, Hochiktani. He says, you're making a mistake. That's not how you read it. It reads like this. Kol shechayev ben chorim bekavana al pi edim kofer. Any case that by a free man, okay, where the animal intended to kill the person, and there are witnesses, you have to pay kofer. Chayev be'eved knas. That's the case where by an eved he has to pay the 30 shekels. The kol shechayev ben chorim shelo bekavana al pi edim, okay, damim. And any case where what by a free man, okay, where it didn't intend to kill the man, but it did, but there were witnesses where he has to pay the damages. Okay, he has to pay by the eved without intention. When there are witnesses, by witnesses, he has to pay the price of the person who was killed. But not where what? But where what? Where there was witnesses. Okay, where there were witnesses, but not by his own admission. It's only talking about where the witnesses, and it wasn't his. And it wasn't him. That's all the Bryce was saying. Okay? The same thing, right? But not by his own admission.
You have to have witnesses.
Yes, you have to have witnesses. Amalei Rava, so Rava says 1 second. He says, if that's really true, okay, that what? That anytime now, according to really, you can say what? That it's quite possible, whether it's kofar or whether it's the fine, it's quite possible that you always have to pay damages. This is the point that I gave you a whole speech about before. You have this incredible chiddush that in absence of an explicit payment in the Torah, you still have to pay always the damages. Okay, you have to, that goes without saying, so to speak. He says if that were really true, he says Isha shaloba kavan al piedim. Then how come by a fire, okay, where he didn't intend to burn the guy to death, and there are witnesses, okay, where in such a case where he's exempt from kofar, exempt because we don't see it by fire. The Shalom Domim, you should have to pay. You have to pay what? The damages for killing the man. And we don't see such a thing. You don't pay damages by the fire. Now watch, be careful. The fact that the man asked this difficulty, it means that Rabbi asked, it means he assumes that it's an assumption. He knows that you don't pay. Who said you don't? He said, how come we don't pay? What do you mean? Who said we don't? How come we don't? He says, how come we don't pay by fire? No, maybe we do. Who said you don't? So the Gemara says, how did he know such a thing? And we're going to show you that he couldn't possibly have known such a thing. He's asking a question, and maybe you do pay. He says, according to you, you should have to pay. No, maybe we pay. So he has to be that he knows as an assumption that you don't pay in that case. Where did he get it from? I'm going to show you that any way you might have thought that he knew it can't be true. Okay, and that's the whole next paragraph. Any way you think he would have known that you don't pay the damages for killing the man by fire, okay, it's not true. We don't know that you don't pay. How does he know you don't pay that in such a case? If it's the case, our famous Mishnah. If the goat, the baby goat was next to the grain pile, okay, tied up, they can't run away. The Eved Samachlo and the slave who could run away is next to it. Minisafimo and the goat and the slave were both burned up with the crop. Chayav, okay, he has to pay for the goat and for the crop, and he's exempt for the slave. Okay, Eved, okay, well, the slave should have run away. Eved kafaslo, but if the Eved is tied, the slave is tied up. Ugdi samachlo, and the goat is next to it, minisrafimo, and it's burnt up. Potter, okay, he's exempt, and now he understands what he's exempt from the goat because it was not tied; it should have run away. And why is he exempt? Why is he exempt for the slave? Okay, because there's no because the only time you pay for a slave is if the ox killed, you have to pay 30. But when he killed it, he doesn't have to pay. And it's also not going to become labor de Rabba because he holds what? And it's not going to be what? No, and it's not, it's also, okay, and it's also not exempt because of Kam labor de Rabba, because he holds what? He holds that it's money, and it's not his strength, okay? So therefore what? So there, you see what? So where there's no knas, you don't pay. There's no other way to explain. It must be what? In absence of the Torah obligating me, where there's no knas, you don't pay the damages. It's not because he has to be killed, because the fire is money. Okay, so therefore what? And he didn't kill him. Okay, it's not considered him. Okay, so he says, Amar Ishlakish, get out of here. It's not true what you're saying. Didn't Reish Lakish tell me could go and say Hates Gufo Shalebet? It's not true what you said. Really, what he should have paid, he really would have paid the damages. You know, now we're gonna say could go and chase his Gufo Shalebet. It's not where he lit a fire to kill them. It's where he lit the guy on fire. There's no way to say that's him. That's Adam Mamazik. It's him doing the come the Rabbin. Now he's a murderer. He lit the guy on fire, literally. He put the fire on the guy and lit him up. They killed him. Yeah, they said me. So now it's come later on. Before though, it wasn't come later on because I would have said what fire was money. Okay, now. Okay, the Ella. Now maybe another place. Maybe Rava knew to ask the kasha from here. We had the Tanya since you learned Chomer be'esh before. We're listing why is fire more severe than a pit. Pardon me, I'll slow down. Fire is obligated when it consumes what's fitting or what's not fitting. Even dirt or stones. We learned this earlier. Even when it scorches dirt or stone, it's still you still have to pay for scorching the earth and scorching the stone. Masha'en came before, but a bar what's not fitting, namely what utensils for bar you don't have to pay. Now, if you're listing why fire is more severe, if it's true that fire, according to that fire has to pay when you didn't intend it. Okay, then you should have said which it should have been according to you. Okay, whenever the Torah didn't say it, well, you always have to pay the damages. You always have to pay the damage. Mashain came before, which is not true by bor, because by bor you never pay for killing a man. Lo Katani didn't teach it. So you see what? That you don't pay for damages when you do for the damages of man, no matter what, even when you didn't intend. You don't even when there's no kofar, there's no nothing, but you always pay the damages for the dead man. Okay? He says, no. He says, he says, you're right. No, maybe you do. Maybe you do by a fire, but it just left it out, and it left out other things also. It left out more than one, left out other things too. Ella, you know what the truth is, we're going to incredible answer, but okay, so what? So the last thing we read was a knockout. It's not true that Rava asked the difficulty. It never happened. The history, they have to revise it. That never happened. He never asked the kasha because the assumption of the kasha is untenable. He had no right to make such an assumption. The answer is what? Ella. Rava wasn't making it, wasn't attacking him. He was asking a question. He was in doubt. He didn't know. Isha Shaloba Kavana. He didn't know. He said, "Wow, what's the law?" He didn't make an assumption. He said, "What's the law about a fire when he didn't attempt to kill the guy?" Okay, Mishalim Domimolo. Does it pay the damages for killing the man or not? Me, I'm going to do. We say Lagabe Shor who do a Kavana Mishalim Kofer. But I say maybe only by an ox, where if he intended to, where the pardon me, Kavana, you know where it intended to kill, where the ox intended to kill the man, he pays kofer. Shaloba kavana, where the ox didn't intend to kill the man, he pays the damages. But by a fire, where with intention, okay, you don't pay kofer. Why? Because there's no. Because why? Because he has to be killed. Okay, so now since when intentionally. The equivalent of intention you don't pay. So also what? When it's no intention, you don't pay the money. Oh, Dilma, no. Perhaps the other side came in the Gabi Shor Shloba. Since when it came to an ox without intention killing a man, Afagaf the Leka Kofer, even where there's no atonement money, Mashan Dami, you still pay the money, the damages. Gabi Isho, you can say the same thing by fire. Afagaf the Gavana Mashan Kofer, even though if you intentionally kill the guy with fire, you don't pay the atonement money. Shloba Kavana means Mashan Dami, without intention, you still have to pay the damages. But Loyadina and the Gemara concludes what we don't. No, today was a particularly hard Gemara. It's just if it was bothering you, you're right. You're right.
Okay, I have to get for myself also.
You don't pay.
Yeah, right. No.
It's one or the other.
Yeah.
Even when
Right.
they're approximately
Right.
the same.
Right.
Even though
It's just a late
Right.
which has a pet.
Okay, Rabbi.
So we went up now to the take.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We should definitely stop here. Oh no. We should. No, we have. It's late. We should stop. And I'll just bring up tomorrow. I wouldn't have stopped, but it's late.
Okay.
It's late.
very
It's before, it's an hour.
Erev Shabbos, and it's the last short, now it starts getting longer. Well, it's the tomorrow night. Havdalah is like a minute later.
But it's funny, but down here, the earliest Shabbos is an hour later and
Well,
up north.
because we're closer to the
Yeah,
equator.
equator, yeah,
But it's just interesting that
Muddy.
yeah.
because of the atmosphere, it's about 10 days earlier than the actual solstice. Because